Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
This is Zach Craley. Download the podcast, save the world.
Hey, Primatech peeps. Welcome back to the Primatech Files, a Southgate Media Group podcast dedicated to all things Hero Prime and related things. I am Lilith, and with me, as always, is...
It's me, Ricky. Hello.
Is, of course, an interview. We scored Zach Craley. Yay, finally.
Yeah.
So, we would like to ask Zach to tell us a little bit about himself before we proceed.
Yeah, I'm Zach Craley. I've worked on both Heroes Reborn and the original Heroes series, written some of the digital content that we've done, and some of the comics.
Before we get into kind of Heroes-related chat, I'm just curious. You worked on the Sarah Silverman program, which is obviously a comedy. Do you prefer writing for comedy, drama, sci-fi, or just kind of like the shows that kind of implement them all on a week-to-week basis?
Well, that show in particular, I just worked on briefly, but on sort of the production side. But I don't know, I sort of like drama just because it gives you the versatility to do comedy stuff, but you can also go to darker places, and you're not, sort of expected to be on the entire time and sort of funny the whole time. You sort of are able to do a little of both. So I like that. I like dark comedies and stuff like that as well as the stuff that I watch. So
fair enough. How did you get involved with Heroes in the first place?
I actually started working in the production side, and then got into the writer's office, and was the writer's assistant for a while. And then that let me sort of get involved with sort of all the ancillary content that the original series was doing.
So the stuff like the graphic novels, the webisodes, or the kind of iStories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite kind of medium of which one of those you prefer to work in?
The graphic novels are a lot of fun, just because it's sort of, you are not limited by sort of budget and some of the stuff that the show and webisode stuff is. But I mean, nothing sort of beats getting to work on the Mothership series, because that's sort of where all the sort of action is.
How, not difficult, but how much back and forth is there when you're writing like one of the graphic novels or the webisodes, like going back to like trying to fit everything into the kind of canon of Heroes?
There's definitely a lot of that, because that's something we've been pretty mindful of the beginning, and that was sort of why a lot of the assistants sort of were running that sort of content, because we were so close to the show and sort of knew the canon intimately. And so, yeah, it's always sort of a little bit of a puzzle piece getting that to all work together.
Speaking of the graphic novels, Hotspur, the character of Hotspur was based on your likeness. Wondering, was that your idea, or did someone else just do that for you?
No, I think Oliver Grigsby snuck me in there, or maybe it was Jason Badhour. But yeah, there were because sort of Jason does such photo likenesses in his artwork. He did a lot of likenesses of people, so there's some cameos in there from the crew.
Yeah, there's also your wife Kat is the avatar for the mythical kind of Sparrow Redhouse. Yes.
Yeah, I sort of snuck her in as a surprise, and then she ended up being a bigger part, so she was in a lot of it. But it was fun. And then like the one year when they had like the Nissan Cube at Comic-Con in San Diego, they had like a Heroes comic wrap around it, so her face was on that, which was fun.
How did you feel like just when, like, obviously, I'm guessing it was a kind of a surprise seeing the character of Hotspur based on your likeness. What was that like, finally, like, seeing it?
It's a little weird.
Fair enough. Cool.
But, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. You're married to Kat Purgal. Did you guys, sorry if this is a bit personal, but did you guys meet before the show, or was it on the set?
No, we met before. We actually went to college together, so we'd been together for a while. And then it was just sort of, because she's an actor out here in LA as well, that was just sort of happy coincidence that she's worked on a couple projects I've been on.
Okay, yeah, I checked out some of her YouTube stuff. The one about the conversations with the Filipino mother was very close to home for me. I related to that quite a lot. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So season 4 of Heroes churned out a lot of extra content. Basically most of the extra content was to do with the carnival. It seemed like a lot of moving parts. Did that make it kind of easier or harder to kind of tell the story and, what you wanted to tell and what needed to be told?
I think it was sort of easier. But at that point, by sort of season 4, it was sort of a well-oiled machine. So I think things were working pretty well hand in hand. And that was the webisodes that had to do with the carnival and sort of Lydia and her daughter were actually produced with Retrofit, who did Dark Matters. Yeah. So Chris and Tanner directed those. And then it was almost like a C unit of our crew that was shooting it. So I thought that was sort of my favorite of the webisodes, just because it had the real feel of the show, because it was our whole crew was producing it. We had all the actors and stuff involved in it.
Shifting gears to Heroes Reborn, can you walk us through what it was like when you got the call about Heroes Reborn?
Well, it was exciting. I mean, because I'd learned about it as everyone else did when there was was it the Olympics or the Olympics commercial?
Olympics, yeah.
And, it was something, because I worked with Tim for a number of years, that, he kept trying to figure out a way to bring it back. So when I heard that it was coming back, it was something I was really hoping I could get involved with, because, I think Heroes is sort of a unique property in that sort of as a superhero property outside of Marvel and Heroes, it's probably one of the biggest things to have launched in recent years. And sort of to be a part of relaunching that and the sort of challenge of doing that and the fun of sort of revisiting that universe and getting to tell some more stories there.
Speaking of challenges, what was the timeline for getting Dark Matters done? Like, was it hectic?
It was. I mean, we sort of were developing that at the same time as the Reborn Writers Room started. So it sort of was all sort of moving in lockstep. And I think we got a little bit more, it was going to be even a little bit tighter, but when we got the fall premiere date for Reborn, it let us, because we thought we were going to have to shoot Dark Matters before Reborn started, which would have been a little more difficult, but we ended up we were shooting Dark Matters at the same point as the pilot. So that was helpful in just that, we were able to sort of help each other out, and some of the stuff, like the Renatus logo was actually created for Dark Matters, and then sort of handed off to the main series, because we sort of knew where the story was going, so we were able to sort of start creating some of those assets ahead of the main show. Cool.
I was just wondering, like, I vaguely remember when Heroes Reborn, they first said it was coming out. It said summer 2015. Was it a network thing that kind of pushed it back to the kind of fall, or what? Am I just mistaken in remembering that?
I think it was initially, and I don't know exactly what all the reasons were. I think it was a variety of things, but I think it was good for the show because it gave us a bigger launch than we probably would have if it had been a summer show.
So the HeroTruther content that kind of like goes hand in hand with the Dark Matters webisode stuff, like whose idea was that, and like how did that all come about?
That was something that was sort of actually always in the sort of concept of what I had wanted to do with our digital series. And sort of actually the first sort of iterations of stuff that I pitched to the producers and to the network was almost all sort of content like that, and a little bit less of a straightforward story. And sort of I thought about it living in multiple platforms, whether it's Twitter and YouTube and Vine or something like that. And sort of as the story developed and sort of as the sort of Frades felt like the focal point, it became a little bit more of a traditional series, but we still wanted to do a little bit of those viral video content to sort of lead into it. And that sort of became the 4 that we did produce.
Yeah, you guys definitely stepped up your content with the other new media platforms from the original series, and that really like surprised me. And I just want to say that was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that was definitely a goal. Sort of for me was just knowing, I think the original series really set the bar with sort of ancillary content. So if we were going to sort of redux that, it was, how can we sort of step this up and really make it something unique?
Yeah, especially the way that the kind of HeroTruther content kind of felt like it could have been like it starts off, most of them start off feeling like it could be just another YouTube video, which just has, at the end, that kind of surprise of it being Evos, I guess.
Right.
So I just want to ask this question kind of in like where the story is now, obviously with June 13th and going back in time and kind of with Quentin kind of becoming Dark Quentin, I guess, for lack of a better word. Did you guys have that? Did you kind of know that little nugget of information whilst you were making Dark Matters? Because there's that little gap in between, one of the episodes and the next one where he's meeting the hero kind of Truther gang for the first time. So I was just wondering if that was, intentional or not.
Yeah, it was sort of, I think we always sort of had in the back of our minds that the Quentin character would turn, whether, initially I think we had talked about him being a spy all along, and then it sort of became a consequence of HRG going back in time.
Yeah.
So we sort of always knew that he was sort of going to be this character that sort of teetered. And, for me, that was sort of fun, as if he did become a bad guy down the line, making him this really sort of lovable character and making you really engaged in Phoebe as well.
Yeah.
I thought this is fun to toy with our emotions that way.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you see shades of, that's what he's always, that sort of conspiracy sort of character that sort of latches into these bigger concepts. You could sort of understand how intellectually this guy could kind of get on board with what Erica's planning as well, sort of once he's indoctrinated earlier on.
I think it kind of also, the way when we find him at the laundromat, there's that little gap in between everything, which could seem like that's when he's kind of turned, and when he's making the videos, it's like he's sending these videos to Erica, and that kind of explains how he got away so easily. And
yeah, exactly. He could be the like best double agent ever. And you sort of, on first read, you're sort of like, oh, he's just sort of this bumbling idiot. But then it's like, well, maybe there was more going on there.
Especially as, that's how Harris, that's how Harris eventually found the HeroTruther guys. It was through him basically saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really like that, looking back on it now.
Can I just ask one more question about Dark Matters? And you don't have to answer if it's like some big, huge thing. But, okay, so like, we don't know who Phoebe's dad is. Does that actually like get resolved, or is that just like a throwaway thing? It's been bothering me since I've been trying to rack my brain. Who could it be? Time travel shenanigans.
I mean, it's definitely something I sort of wanted to drop in there for potential to explore down the line. So it's not something we're gonna, answer by the end of Reborn. But if I got the opportunity to tell more stories about Quentin and Phoebe, that would be maybe something we'd dive into.
Okay, Kickstarter page for some graphic novels is what he's saying, guys. Let's get on it.
Definitely, yeah. Especially if they're the Frady Cat kind of centric. We're down for the Frady Cats, whether evil or not. Also, something else that I don't know if you listened to our we did like loads of recaps of the hero. We did like live commentaries of all the kind of webisodes.
I totally checked them out.
Oh, awesome!
Because I was really excited that you guys were doing that podcast and sort of digging into all that stuff. So because I had snuck a lot of Easter eggs in there, so I was excited to see that you guys were picking up on every single one.
there is one thing that we were like so sure about, but never came to fruition. I have to bring it up. Globus Biotech, the first kind of place that Phoebe goes to kind of get we were sure that it was an ARG, especially when we went to find it and it was a little company in India. We just want, like, that is not a thing, right?
No, it was totally, I think, something that our art department put together and cleared that name. And we had sort of, just told them to kind of go in sort of biotech firm sort of land to sort of, explain why Renatus would be there as well. But Yes, it would have been a great place to sneak in
Yeah.
in ARG if we'd been able to do something that expansive.
Yeah. Sorry, we were so hyped when we found that website, because especially it was like in India and it had only been made in like January. We were like, oh, this could be it. This could be one of the ARGs. But yeah.
That's really funny though. It's serendipitous.
Going back to kind of Heroes and the Heroes universe, which character kind of did you identify with the most? Whether it be from the original show, the new show, graphic novels, webisodes, or iStories, which one did you kind of hold close to your heart, I guess, is the best way.
Right. I think probably, at least initially, I think sort of the season 1 Peter character I probably sort of identified with a bit, just sort of the way, he was sort of, dreaming about, this, and sort of, this is sort of like a little bit of existential crisis and wondering how, we all fit together. And then the Isaac too, I really loved in season 1, this tortured artist who's struggling with his addiction and his power and sort of all those things. So those were probably 2 of my favorite characters sort of in the first go around.
Awesome.
But Quentin is definitely a character that's close to my heart in this round.
Yeah, I think it's the same for most people, us especially anyway. I was wondering, do you have like a favorite graphic novel, either overall, or you can say one of your own if you want?
Out of the Heroes?
Yeah, let's go with the originals.
I really liked the Primatech Files arc that we did towards sort of the end. That was sort of a group of a few of us. And those I always thought were just fun to sort of delve into the history of the company a little bit more, and Angela and DeVoe and sort of those characters.
Definitely.
And that would be one that I'd love to continue at some point if we could do more of those.
I definitely we always like the idea of going the anthology route and kind of picking up from
founders.
Yeah, picking up with the founders and just seeing them all get together and kind of facing an idea, something. But yeah, do you have a favorite volume of Heroes? We're going with like obviously 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Sorry.
Right. I'd probably have to go with the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people are exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to beat sort
like
of
American
a lot
Idol.
of that. Yeah. Right.
And do you have a favorite episode of like? Let's go with Heroes and Heroes Reborn.
I could probably give you a few.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could narrow it down to one. But sort of out of that first season, I always really liked the 5 Years Gone episode. Definitely. Where you sort of flash forward and see where everybody ended up. Homecoming was a great one. And then I also actually like in the first episode of the Fugitives arc. Yeah. Which I think was Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah, yeah.
I always thought that was really great. One of our better episodes. And Greg Utanis directed that, and I thought just did an incredible job. The whole plane crash and all that stuff is really cool. And then out of Reborn, actually episode 9 is one that I really like. Just because you dig in a little more on the characters and you're catching back up to speed after all the flashbacks.
Yeah, Sunday Bloody Sunday, right?
Yeah, yeah. But then the first June 13th episode's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then I'm a little biased, but the final episode I think is going to be great.
Nice. Obviously, you can't tell us anything for fear of being Haitian or Caspered, I guess.
Yes,
well,
yes.
Casper's dead now. We don't have to worry about him.
I'd get end up in Sunstone Manor.
Fair enough. Have you had a chance to play Enigma or even Gemini, and what are your thoughts on the games?
I've played a little of Enigma. I haven't had a chance to play Gemini, but I've seen some of the videos and stuff of the gameplay, and that looks really awesome. I'm excited for that one to come out and for everybody to see it. But yeah, I think the games are great, and I think what they did a really excellent job of was making them sort of stand alone as good games, apart from being part of the Heroes canon. And so I think that was a good achievement, that they're not just sort of your standard sort of, licensed adaptation of the show.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to try and see where not it fits, but like how it links in like throughout the whole kind of plane of Enigma, especially. So yeah.
Wait, did we ever find out what WH stood for?
No, I don't think we did. Yeah, that's a bit
back on the spot. Does he have a clue?
For what was it?
near the end of Enigma, they have like test tubes with like which seem to be holding powers, and one of them's like TK, one of them's like PK, which are obviously like telekinesis and pyrokinesis. There's one that says WH, which we couldn't for the life of us figure out, and we've even tried talking to like some of the developers to try and see if they knew, and they were like, no, we don't. But we're just wondering if you had an idea.
I don't have any insight on that, but I'm sure there is an answer. I wonder if Joey or Raven would know.
Yeah, we'll try.
Someone knows.
Everyone is clamoring for a second season. I think, most people are. There's a debate about obviously which path you guys you think what do you think if you had the book, what would you prefer to happen? Would you prefer it to be a kind of continuation of the story that's currently kind of being told, or would you kind of want to go the anthology route and kind of just telling different chapters like a la kind of American Horror Story?
Right. I think ideally for me, I'd like to see a little bit of both, probably leaning more towards the anthology.
Yeah.
And in sort of the same way that we did with Reborn, where you sort of, you introduce a whole new cast and sort of, new stories and new universe to sort of live in. And then you bring in sort of some of the other characters. Yeah. So if we did continue, it'd be fun to see if, who comes back from Reborn, who comes back from the original series.
Yeah.
And I think it's a way to sort of keep it fresh, and you're not sort of, continually dragging out that one serialized story with characters, because, there's certainly elements of Heroes, like the origin story, that is so fun, but you can only do that once.
Yeah, definitely try and get Ando back as well. We need that pairing back. We need side quest Ando Hero and Miko and Ren definitely on a little mission to do something.
Yeah, he's probably riding around on his motorcycle somewhere.
Exactly, Crimson Lightning.
Ando bite.
Yeah,
with was it Kimiko on the back? Yeah. We call our fandom, as in like the fandom of the Fradies, the Frady cats, because we love them. Do you know who was responsible in part for Dark Quentin?
As in just sort of the concept of him changing. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it was always sort of the intention there, so it may have been something from sort of Tim's original pitch of that character. But it probably has a little bit of all the writers' rooms input.
So we worked on another Tim Crean show as well, Touch, and I'm forever bitter about the cancellation, as are many of the fans. So I forgot to interview Tim to ask him this. So do you think you could do me a favor the next time you have Tim's ear? Talk to him about a Touch graphic novel, especially if it's about a grown-up Jake in the 36. Like, we just need that in the world.
I love that idea. And I'm glad that you watched Touch. I thought it was a very special show to me. So I'm glad that there are fans still out there for it.
That's Straight to Fate on steroids. Yeah. What's not to love?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think he might grow up to be Batman.
Oh! Shout out to David Mazouz in Gotham.
Yeah.
Awesome. Zach, thank you very much for coming on. Don't want to take up any more of your time. Do you have anything that you want to say to the fandom before you move on? That sounded really weird. Move on. Sorry.
Before I move on. Keep watching, and can't wait to see what everyone thinks about the last 3 episodes.
We're going to ask one more time. Is there anything that you can hint towards in the kind of final 3 without getting Haitians?
Well, I think Angela sort of spelled out some pieces of the prophecy of what she sees for the end of the world. So I think you'll see some of that come to fruition.
Okay.
And we'll find HRG in a familiar place.
Ooh. Nice.
Right?
Thank you very much.
I can't say more.
Yeah. No, that's more than enough to whet our appetites. Keep us going over the hiatus. Thank you very much again.
Well, that was our interview with Zach Craley. We hope you found it entertaining and informative. We want to remind you guys that we will be doing a little bit of a rewatch on Saturdays, just like old times. So please be sure to join Ricky. I'm sure he's going to tweet it out, put it on the Facebook and the Tumblr to let you guys know more information. So be on the lookout for that.
Download the podcast, Save the World.